Sanbonani, Dumelang, Absheni, Lochani, welcome to a webinar on technology facilitated gender-based violence hosted by Tales of Tinning. We are excited to have you here and we look forward to sharing the work that we have done in technology facilitated gender-based violence. While we wait for others to join the room, we invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat and also the organization that you are from and your location, please. Hello, goeiedag, dumelang once again, Molweni, Lochani, Avucheni, we welcome you once again to a webinar on technology facilitated gender-based violence. We are excited to have different people from different corners of the world. Thank you for being here. We would also like you to share some of the questions that you might have throughout the presentation on the chats. Just going to quickly hand over to my colleague and the director at Tales of Turning, Stefan Snell, to give you an overview of Tales of Turning. Over to you, Steph.
Thanks, Yabata. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Oh, there's my camera. So as you can see from the slide there, that's what we're about. Tales of Turning seeks to address seemingly intractable social problems through the use of technology and public social media. So Tales of Turning is a leader in realizing social media and technology as a force for good. Innovating through harnessing research, technology, public social media, and dialogue promotes personal reflection or external questioning of shallow or disinformation posts and grows social cohesion and the development of critical thinking online. These programs unite people across the globe to form networks of digital change makers who are using innovation to promote peace and democracy. With initial funding in 2020, as the COVID-19 panic hit us, we started researching and experimenting online with online prejudice as a virtual organization. With the xenophobia narrative, only to discover at the time about 80% of the narrative was engineered through about 182 social media accounts. We then moved on to misogyny and gender-based violence and discovered that we discovered thus far about 70,000 South African male allies online, people who have spoken out of their own volition against gender-based violence. And there are all sorts of activities around that to get them to become leaders of change online. We've also done training in African community practice of LGBTQI activists in the use of social media listening tools in 6 countries. We have also worked in 3 African elections, adapting methodologies in the defense of the electoral body and training community organization online and offline as peacebuilders. Some of the key opportunities lie in the trillions of unsolicited public contributions reflecting the human condition. It is in effect a mirror of who we are. Listening tools help us, or rather listening tools enable advertisers to find customers directly. It is the reason all those platforms exist. We find allies and opponents online with a ratio of more than 6-to-1 and leverage this advantage, with the 6 being the allies. Using a variety of ethical methods, some of which are now evidence-based, allies are engaged to take back the narrative from prejudicial opponents. People online display prejudice and antisocial behavior, in effect are raising their hands and signal they need help. We accept the invitation and engage them at scale, targeting their best selves. We don't support hiding the signal in social media speak, rather the sweeping problems under the carpet. Collectively, we now have the knowledge and wisdom to constructively engage the problems at scale. And with that, I'm going to hand you over to my fellow director, Jeff Mamputa. Jeff, over to you.
Steph, thank you very much for that. We at Tales of Turning engage men and boys in the process of preventing gender-based violence, minimizing it and eradicating it. And we are doing this because it is so evident how prevalent and pervasive this behavior and attitude of males are. And this is caused by male socialization, a process that leads men and boys to think, act, and behave in ways that are supposed to validate their masculinity in a way. And this socialization includes enabling men to dominate, to be aggressive, to control, and to suppress their emotions, and to assert their heterosexuality. And of late, to use technology to insult and undermine women. These norms that emerge out of this socialization contribute to the violence against women and children in different ways. And these ways include that sense of entitlement, where men control and dominate and disregard women's worth, in ways of being aggressive towards women, using force also. The objectification of women, that is looking and viewing women as objects instead of equals, and manifests itself in the power dynamics, where men use force to maintain power and control over women. To illustrate this, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, there was an item on the news that one found disturbing, of a learner, a school girl who was 13 at the time, who got raped by a relative. And when she reported this to the family, because the family is supposed to deal with the kind of stuff in some instances, the family blamed her as a girl child for tempting the uncle. So she decided to go to the school and spoke to a teacher who she had confidence in, who in turn took advantage of her and her situation and also raped her. When she reported this to the principal, instead of being concerned about her situation, was concerned about the male teacher who was going to lose his job, and blamed her for making the teacher to lose his job. So what happened? The other male teachers stopped interacting with her and supporting her in her schoolwork because they did not want to be blamed also. Eventually, as she was reporting yesterday on radio, because of the situation at school, which became unbearable for her, she had to drop out of school. And all the males that have been involved in this process are continuing with their work because of the male network, the support that males give to one another, the way they've been socialized, and the fact that they don't see anything wrong in what that was happening. And so as a woman, she ends up being blamed for everything that is happening. So in Tales of Turning, as Steph said earlier on, and as my colleague, Jenna Lee, is going to talk further, we engage men to work and to be able to confront and engage with men that are involved in this kind of behavior. And the research and the work that we've done in the past has shown that this is possible, as you will hear as we talk further about this. So I invite Jenna Lee to take us further on our journey. Thank you, Jenna Lee.
Thanks so much, Jeff. It's wonderful to listen to you. As always, I always learn so much when I hear you speak. So thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's so lovely to see so many people here today and so many familiar people in the room. So thank you for taking the time out of your day. The National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide has a really bold vision of a South Africa free from gender-based violence directed at women, children, and LGBTQI+ persons. Given the horrific statistics in South Africa and globally, we really need to reach people at scale and at all levels of society to achieve this ambitious goal. And social media and technology provides us with an incredible way to reach people on a wide scale across South Africa. And it also allows us to amplify the incredible work that has already been done in the sector to prevent gender-based violence and to support to support survivors of gender-based violence. So it allows us to amplify the impact of the whole sector. The development of digital capacities plays an important role in the realization of the National Strategic Plan, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. South Africans spend an average of 3.2 hours a day on social media, and the rate across Africa and the global rate is also really high. Technology and social media has become part of every aspect of our lives. And there's a lot of research showing that online violence leads to offline violence. Because social media is so integrated with our lives, it helps shape our beliefs and our attitudes, which in turn shapes our behavior offline. There's also a lot of research around technology-facilitated gender-based violence and how it has become an extension of offline violence. So as technology is developing so rapidly, there are becoming more and more ways for men to use technology to control and abuse and target women. So social media and technology can be used to realize many of the different pillars and aspects of the National Strategic Plan. One amazing way is in research and developing evidence-based interventions. But today we're really our topic is really focusing on Pillar 2, the prevention and rebuilding of social cohesion, which looks at eliminating the social acceptance of all forms of violence. And this really follows on from what Jeff's saying. So technology and social media is an incredible way of engaging, and also what Steph was saying, that we can find so many allies online. It's an incredible way of engaging people on a wide scale, engaging men on a wide scale, to shift these problematic gender norms, patriarchal beliefs, and to disrupt intergenerational cycles of violence. So we work with the concept that hurt people, and men still absolutely need to be accountable, but we need to go to the root cause and look at disrupting these intergenerational cycles of trauma and pain. So part of that is working also with fatherhood. And so I'm going to talk a bit more about our pilot that we did on technology-facilitated gender-based violence prevention. So I'll go into the pilot, and then I'll go into, now that the pilot was absolutely fascinating, and it showed that this is very effective. So I'll go into what do we want to do next, which is rolling out this intervention. And then what do we need in order to roll out this intervention? So the question that I wanted to start off with, and if you can please, I'll give you a moment to write your answer in the chat, but how is technology used as a form of violence against women, children, and LGBTQI+ persons? I invite you just to take a moment and write your answer in the chat. And while everyone's writing their answer in the chat, we really want to make this interactive. And I see there's a lot of introductions in the chat. Please also put any questions that you have there, and so we can respond to those. So, as I mentioned, technology has become a new way of, well, not a new way, it's been for a long time, for decades, it's been used against women. But as it's developing so quickly, it's escalating. This type of abuse is escalating at an alarming rate. And tactics used by perpetrators include doxing, which refers to sharing personal information about women online with the intention of targeting them. So, for example, sharing a woman's address online so that they can be targeted. Cyber grooming, which refers to forming adults forming emotional relationships with children online, with the intention of sexual exploitation and abuse. Digital stalking, which is referring to obsessively monitoring and harassing women online. And then image-based sexual abuse, which is sharing intimate images of women and children online. And what is terrifying about this is with the really wide dissemination of AI, it is now possible to just, with a simple app, take a fully clothed picture of a woman or a girl and create sexually explicit content and porn from this. There have been many cases recently of this happening in schools, so really young girls going to school and they've never shared any intimate photos of themselves, and just from a fully clothed image, the boys are sharing sexually explicit videos of them. This is also happening in under-resourced schools, where the girls have no access to resources such as counseling and legal representations to deal with this. So it's really terrifying. And then cyberbullying, which is targeting people and bullying people using digital platforms and technology. And we know the far-reaching consequences this has on people's mental health, both adults and children. And we know what a sensitive time being a teenager is, and this type of bullying is really terrible to deal with on top of in-person bullying, because there's just nowhere to hide from it. Even if you're in the comfort of your own home, you're not safe because you can be reached anywhere. And we know there's been many cases of suicide because of cyberbullying. So in the pilot, we focused on defending feminist organizations, women leaders, women activists, and women journalists online. This is an issue that really affects our democracy because many women leaders across the globe are stepping down because they're being targeted online. As I mentioned, online violence is an extension of offline violence, and it's really, really serious. So when women leaders are being threatened and their family and their children are constantly being threatened online, it puts them in huge danger. It's also threatening our democracy because when over half our population, being women, are having to moderate what they say and be silenced online, it's silencing over half the voices. How can we have a democracy then, given that social media is so integrated and is such a part of our lives? So I've mentioned this, but I really just want to emphasize the importance on online safety for children. Online violence is having a huge, huge effect on children, their mental health, their physical safety, and it's been used extensively for sexual abuse. This is a rapidly advancing problem in South Africa, and across the globe, and it has far-reaching consequences on these children's lives, but also given intergenerational cycles of violence, it will have consequences for years to come. So in the pilot, there were 14 dialogue facilitators online facilitating dialogue. And what they started off doing is generating a list of keywords. The keywords allow us to find conversations on public social media that are related to technology-facilitated gender-based violence. So on the screen, you can see a sample of the keyword list that we generated. This is used for our dialogue facilitation, and it will also be used, which I'll go into later, to build a query on the social media listening tools to do a deeper analysis of the conversation. So the first step was developing this keyword list. Then once the dialogue facilitators had a robust keyword list, they could find the conversations on public social media and start engaging with these conversations online. So actually going out onto the different platforms and engaging with people around these conversations. For this, we use our dialogue facilitation methodology, which is based on conflict mediation, psychology, and narrative therapy that we've adapted to an online environment. Steph Snell and Jeffrey Mamputo, who spoke before me, have extensive experience working with conflict mediation. And my background is in psychology and narrative therapy. And then we have an incredible, diverse team which brings so many skills and knowledge and contextual knowledge and expertise to the development of this methodology. So, as I said, we adapted this to an online environment, and at Tales of Turning, we take a narrative therapy approach. And this is really one of my biggest passions. So we view individuals and communities as the experts of their own lives with the skills and knowledge to influence their own problems. We facilitated processes where individuals and communities share their knowledge to re-author their stories and to create new narratives. So we all know, and many of these organizations are very excitingly in the room today, that community-based organizations are on the forefront of the fight against gender-based violence. And the knowledge and skills that they have are absolutely extraordinary. So when we can weave this knowledge and skills together and create new narratives and then amplify this knowledge using social media, it becomes something very powerful. So we weave the knowledge and create these new narratives, and then we can share it with other communities in South Africa, across Africa, and across the globe. We're looking at replicating this work in Sweden, and we've also been asked to do it in America and Costa Rica as well. So it really becomes this global knowledge sharing, which is very, very exciting for me. So in our dialogue facilitation methodology, we start by asking, and this is done online, obviously, and we start by asking curious questions to understand the other person's perspective, give them an opportunity to express their feelings and make them feel included and that they belong. Next, we'll ask them questions so that they can share their experiences that have formed these beliefs and perspectives. And then the next step of the process is asking questions to get them to reflect on problematic beliefs that they're holding, misogynistic beliefs, problematic gender norms. And so it's really this process of self-reflection and healing and disrupting intergenerational cycles of trauma and pain. I think I mentioned this previously, as we see it as hurt people. So we're trying to disrupt these cycles. Another aspect of our dialogue facilitation methodologies, which is very interesting, is the truth queries. So the truth queries involve questioning potential mis and disinformation online. So going to the post and saying something like, is this true? Where did you get this information from? And we sometimes use colloquial, like really social media language of, are you for real? So it's really just to question the validity of the post. And very excitingly, over the local government elections, and then again, we did a study then with the University of Washington, and then we did a second study with the University of Washington and the Forensic Hub at the University of Clemson, where we tested, so it's 2 research studies testing this methodology. And as you can see on screen, it has really, really amazing results. So the blue is when we apply the truth questioning, and the gray is the control group. And you can see how by applying this truth questioning, it really regularizes the conversation. It decreases the likelihood that people will reshare the post, so it decreases resharing. It decreases people believing that the post is trustworthy and believing in the accuracy of the post. What's so amazing about this is it's agnostic. So it can't be used for political reasons or to try and manipulate the narrative. So, and it's also not telling people that we hold the truth. It's really getting them to do it's actually maturing social media and encouraging people to critically engage with information online. And what also for me is great about it is that, of course, fact-checking is important, But there's so much disinformation, and it's popping up so quickly that this is a way in real time that just takes a few moments to post this comment to calm the conversation. And so for the pilot, as I mentioned, there was the team of 14 dialogue facilitators that would have shifts every day, dialoguing in the technology-facilitated gender-based violence conversation. And then we would also have dialogue sessions. Siabata is going to go a bit more into the training that we've done in a moment, but everyone that has been part of our training, as well as other organizations and people that are interested in the work, we invite them to these dialogue sessions. This is a chance for them to apply this knowledge practically. And we also, so we'll all be together on a Zoom link, online, dialoguing. And while we're doing that, we're having conversations about what we find. So it's also a way of knowledge sharing. We share the keywords, resources, and it also increased the impact of our work. You can imagine now you have this big group of people dialoguing together. It increases impact. So I'm now handing over to Siabata to explain a bit more about the data collection that we did during the pilot.
Thank you, Jenny. So during the pilot, we collected data on social media platforms, public social media platforms, with over 14 dialogue facilitators. We collected hundreds of posts that were shared on online platforms. As you can see on your screen, we had the post links, and then using the keywords that Jenny mentioned earlier, we searched the keywords to get to those different posts that were made on online platforms. And we found that each and every post has a repost, it has likes, and it has comments, which then makes it visible to a larger audience. So each post that is violent, that is technology facilitated violence, gets to be seen by hundreds of other people because someone else who follows them commented on the post or liked the post and shared the post. And we also commented on those posts using generated comments using the dialogue facilitation methodology, which encourages the author or anyone that may see the post to be reflective of what the post or what harm the post might cause to others, and to be self-reflective of themselves as to what's the intention of making a post that harms another human being. So as you can see on the screen, we had the post links using the keywords that generally mentioned earlier. We searched those keywords to get to the links, and then we also shared the engagements per post and the self-reflective responses that we had on different posts. We also made a few dialogue designs to encourage engagement on online platforms. These designs are unbranded. They are in colloquial languages to basically meet people where they are. As you can see on the screen, the first design is Ngandani Ubudlobangela Emakhaseni Wenxibilelwano, which is in Xhosa, and it means prevent technology-facilitated gender-based violence on online platforms. It then creates and raises awareness on technology-facilitated gender-based violence, and it makes people want to know more about it, because most people have a narrow mind when it comes to gender-based violence, thinking that it can only be physical, or it can only happen physical when two human beings are in the same space, but they do not think of technology facilitated gender-based violence. I saw earlier on the chats, Nosipo mentioned that she also underwent a terrible experience of the violence on TikTok, and people are not aware of that violence happens on social media platforms. So these designs are there to also create awareness and to bring people to the fore to say that let us have conversations and see how we can educate people on this and ensure that people reflect on their behaviors on online platforms. As you can see, we also created some of the basic questions around technology-assisted gender-based violence on designs. The first one was, what is your view on technology-assisted gender-based violence? The other one was, how does technology-assisted violence impact your mental health? These are the designs that we also shared on online platforms when we were collecting data and when we were gathering people on online platforms to have conversations and to encourage them to have vulnerable conversations with each other around technology-assisted gender-based violence. One of the posts was as follows. I'm just going to quickly read it. Whenever women talk of their lived experiences of abuse, rape threats, and bullying online, why do some men jump in to inform them that they are playing the victim card? Is this some sort of subconscious guilt they feel that they are being individually called out? I need you to think about how you would respond to this post and share your response in the chat. So you can just take a minute to read the post once again and then share how you would respond to this post in the chat. Another sample post that we were able to collect while we were doing our pilot is as follows. So cyberbullying about how I look has continued daily after the election. I'm secure enough in myself to brush it off, knowing that disgusting comments are such a typical thing for women in politics. The thing is, I've never felt prettier, stronger, or more loved than now. So what we gathered from this post is that it is shared by someone, a woman who is in politics and who has undergone abuse on online platforms. So the first thing that we did using the dialogue facilitation methodology is to obviously sympathize with the author of this tweet and ask her, how can we ensure that young women in politics do not have the same challenges that you had. This opens conversations, constructive conversations on online platforms, and conversations that may also encourage young women who are aspiring politicians to also continue with their aspirations, because they can see that there are people who actually want to make a change on the field or any other different field. And it brings people to the fore, and it encourages them to have those vulnerable conversations. As you can see here, we also had a response engagement, the engagement that we received from our self-reflective comment on the initial post that was shared on social media platforms. The Tales of Training team also provides training for traditional healers, traditional leaders, and taxi drivers, as we know that we find violence a lot also in our communities. And taxi drivers are honestly a part of the heart of communities, because they get different communities on the daily. And the taxi industry is usually known to be violent. We've had trainings gender-based violence prevention trainings in the taxi industry. We've had them in the traditional Hilelas, what would be known as Izangoma industry, where we also made shocking discoveries of how some gobelas who are trainers abuse their initiates. And we were able to train these healers and to train various stakeholders in that field on how they can prevent gender-based violence in the field. And we have trained over 60 community-based organizations on how they can prevent or end gender-based violence in their communities and how they can deal with such cases whenever they have a case of gender-based violence. It can either be technology facilitated gender-based violence, or it can be gender-based violence in its broader sense. And we are currently having trainings with university students. Currently, it's at the University of Cape Town to leverage social media and technology to prevent gender-based violence. And we are looking on having these trainings on a broader scale with different other universities across the world, where we will be encouraging students to have self-reflective or vulnerable conversations with each other and leverage social media for good. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Linda to take you through the insights that we gathered while we were piloting on technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Siabata, and welcome everyone. So I'm here to present the insights that we had through the data through dialoguing online, which reveals or highlights that the problem at hand, that is technology-facilitated gender-based violence, is urgent, and also the complexities that are associated with it. So we group the insights under 7 main points, which in my presentation, I will touch on all of them. So the first one is the escalating trend of technology-facilitated gender-based violence, which takes place in online platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and others, in the form of cyberbullying and online harassment. And this also shows us that as technology is improving every day, it also provides the avenue for this problem to continuously expand or spread and become rampant in our society, crossing geographical boundaries as well and infiltrating into people's personal spaces. Now, this shows that it's a global concern that affects all women on all levels, because now social media is free. People use social media for whatever thing that they have to do. And so there are all forms of all levels of women, both children, adults, even people in social spaces and economic spaces, all on social media. And these harassment and cyberbullying also affect them as well. The next thing that we'll talk about is the profound impact that it has. The first one is on the mental health of people, because it creates some kind of fear, or because of the traumatic experiences that people go through when they receive or threats, such as in the form of cyberbullying and online harassment. Also, it's people are also complaining of having anxiety, depression, and there is a form of normalization of the type of violence that goes on these social media platforms, because there are, I would say, our institutions or certain things that are supposed to check out these things are weak or are not enough to help solve this problem. So there is the issue of mental health on the rise, and as well as the normalization of this issue, bringing us to what positive responses or initiatives we can do to help solve or reduce this problem or canker in our society. And the first one that we saw was the support for survivors. Currently, it's been going on. There are support groups online who share stories of people to encourage people to come out and share their stories. Also, there is a need for us to use technology for good in our own spaces, as well as mobilizing support and creating more awareness about this problem to, discourage people, and also to discourage people who are perpetrators of this crime, as well as put a band for people to also know that this is a canker that is affecting our society, and there is a need for us to scrub it off from our societal ways. The sixth point I'll talk about is the broader implication of this canker, that is technology-facilitated gender-based violence, which are deeply rooted in other big problems that were already there before the advent of these social media platforms, that is gender inequality. So we could see that the technology facilitated gender-based. It's like technology has given the platform for gender-based violence to be on the rise. It has given more space for people to now come online publicly and also harass people online. So they are deep-rooted in issues like gender inequality, cultural and societal and social barriers, as well as we can mobilize support to help, solve this problem. And so it is on us, it's on our responsibility to come together to use a comprehensive approach, which we can employ the use of technology and the human-centered approach to help solve this problem, as I said, by creating awareness, supporting survivors, sharing stories. And we believe that through this, we can help solve this problem in our society and use technology for good. Thank you. I'll hand over to Jenny.
Thank you so much, Linda. Those are really fascinating insights. So what I want to speak about for the last section of the webinar is how can we prevent technology-facilitated gender-based violence? As we have discussed, it's a far-reaching issue, and it's going to take all of us to address this. So we are looking for partnership organizations. If this is interesting to you, please, Siabata, if you could just put my email in the chat, please reach out to me, email me if you are interested in partnering with us around this and collaborating. We're all about collaborations. And then we're also looking for funding to roll this out at scale across South Africa, across Africa, and globally. If you are interested in training in this, you can also reach out to me. So next, what I want to go into is what we actually want to do to prevent technology-facilitated based violence. After the pilot was so successful and interesting, this is what we want to do next. So we want to use social media listening tools to gain a deeper understanding of technology-facilitated gender-based violence and map technology-facilitated gender-based violence in near real time. These social media listening tools are the tools that are traditionally used by marketing companies, and we've adapted them to use them for social good, and we have a lot of experience in this. What's so exciting about them is that they pull in vast amounts of data from public social media. So we really get to work with big data. We then do a thematic analysis on this big, huge amount of data, and we find the different themes in the conversation. So you can really get the complexity of how are people grappling with this, what are the root causes, what are the underlying issues. And it's any researcher's dream. And you can also see different geographical hotspots of misogyny, of technology-facilitated gender-based violence, and develop targeted interventions for those areas. What's also fascinating about these tools is, so we work in all different language contexts. So we have people on our team that can speak the 12 official South African languages, who can speak different African languages. And as we're exploring doing this work in Sweden and Costa Rica, people who can speak the local languages. But it's not only about the language, it's also about using colloquial phrases. So when we use this tool, we see how people are talking about these issues, what phrases they're using. So instead of using academic language, we can really meet people where they're at. So it helps us to shape the dialogue by using the same the same language and then the same phrases people are using. And it also shows us entry points for dialogue. So if we know what people are grappling with and what they're really talking about, we can enter that conversation and help bring people into this process of self-reflection. Then it also shows how the conversation changes over time. So we use this as one aspect of our monitoring and evaluation. So it forms part of a baseline study. So what we want to do is put together a comprehensive research report on this that we, and then because we're working with live data, so we'll have a thorough comprehensive research report, but because we're also working with live data that's available in near real time, we will also provide regular updates on this topic with this live data. And this will be disseminated widely through webinars, through open access research reports, and also through social media content. So snippets of insights in different languages that's really relatable to people. So it can, as we spoke, and this affects everyone's life. So everyone can use this, as well as supporting the work that is being done in the sector through this research. And then we'll also use the social media listening tools to find allies online. So as has already been mentioned, we've previously found 70,000 men speaking out against gender-based violence and misogyny online. And you can imagine what becomes possible when you have these huge groups of allies. So this research will, as I mentioned, be used to support other organizations who are doing this work, to inform as many people as possible so that they can use these insights in their lives. And then it will also be used to inform data-driven interventions and to build early warning systems. Another important part of our work is capacity building. So Siabata has already touched on the training that we've done. It has been absolutely incredible during this training to work with taxi drivers, to work with traditional leaders. One traditional leader approached us, and she's the most phenomenal woman in a very remote area. She got all the chiefs and traditional leaders in her area into the community hall, put up a projector, and we did incredible training. Also, the knowledge in that community is phenomenal. So this is something I'm really passionate about. So so now we want to upscale this training and train more people and do it more. And it's also very important that we reach schools. So social media is an incredible way of doing early interventions with youth. And as I mentioned, this is a technology facilitated violence is an alarming problem in schools. So we really need to be working in schools. And so we will provide training in how to use how to leverage social media to prevent gender-based violence, and how to prevent technology-assisted gender-based violence, as well as to how to engage men and boys to shift unequal gender norms, and then also use the evidence-based methodology to prevent mis and disinformation. We know mis and disinformation is rife in the gender space and is very concerning with far-reaching consequences. And so we will also be running an intervention to prevent technology-facilitated gender-based violence against feminist organization, women leaders, activists, and journalists, and support survivors of this form of violence. So how this will work is that we will have a team of dialogue facilitators that are working on this and working online. They will be monitoring the live data and the early warning system for threats against women. And they will be, so from the people that we've trained, they will be building networks from these people, the different people and organizations that have been trained. And they will continue to mentor them, to provide them with resources. And then when there is a threat, they will mobilize the team and the volunteers to defend the woman against this threat. And so then that goes on to innovation. So we know that social media we know that technology is rapidly advancing at a terrifying rate. So it is even mentioned in the National Action Plan that in order to prevent gender-based violence, we need to be adaptable and flexible. So innovation is very important in that space. So we will be working with new tools to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence, including AI. So we've already started experimenting with AI, but we're looking for partnerships and funding to build this out and strengthen it. We'll be experimenting with digital tools to contact and recruit the allies to become digital activists. So now you can imagine what's possible with these lists of thousands of men who are already speaking out about this. So we're going to experiment with engaging with them and recruiting them to become volunteers and to help us defend women online. And then very excitingly, we started experimenting this, but again, we want to deepen it and build it out, is develop early warning capabilities to flag potential incidences of technology-facilitated gender-based violence, monitor for emerging threats, and mobilize people to respond. So we're nearing the end of the webinar, and I just wanted to share some handouts with you. So the first handout I'm sharing in the chat is a literature review that we were involved in. It's a very comprehensive review of the literature around technology-facilitated gender-based violence. So you can really gain a deep understanding of what has been done in South Africa and globally. And it also makes recommendations based on the literature of what needs to happen. So you can just take a look in the chat and download that if it is of interest to you. The next handout is an example that we put together on the social media listening tools, mapping online gender-based violence. So that is what is possible using the tool, the social media listening tools. And again, that is in the chat. I mean, in the chat, you can just click on it and download it. And then the third handout is what the webinar is based on today, which is the pilot. And everyone that I've seen, there was some requests in the chat for the recording. So everyone that has joined will get automatically after this webinar, get a recording. And please, if you know of any organizations that are interested in partnering, please share the recording and the handouts with them. And we'd be very excited to hear from you. In the last few moments, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Before I do that, I also wanted, before I forget, I'm just copying this link quickly. We also have a WhatsApp group of digital activists that are based in South Africa, Africa, and across the globe. And on this WhatsApp group, I posted the link in the chat, so please join if it's of interest to you. We share resources there, and we also host regular dialogues on Mondays. So if you would like to be part, it's a really a place for knowledge sharing, so people can also share the work that they're doing, their thoughts, their beliefs, and it's just a way to get involved more. So please click on the link and join us there. And then lastly, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone here that has taken time out of their busy days to be here with us. And I'm really excited at many of the people who have joined that I know, and I'm just so grateful that you're here with us today. So we had 260 people register for this webinar, which just shows what a pertinent issue this is. And many of them have joined us today from across the world, from Cameroon and Ghana and Ethiopia and Sweden, UK, all across South Africa. So it just shows that this is a global issue. And I'm also just happy to connect with so many different people, and hopefully we can continue learning together. I also wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone on the Tales of Turning team. They all put in a huge effort, especially Linda. Linda's in Ghana, and she put in a huge effort to be here today and to connect with us. So thank you to everyone. On the screen is our social media. Please join us there, join the group, reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.